Now we are coming to the end of this course. We hope that you had a good learning experience, not just from the software development perspective, but also from the all-round aspect of what all goes into building software, working in teams and so on. So, in the previous videos of this week, we looked at certain non-technical aspects such as collaboration and communication, which are required to become good software engineers. Let us now reflect on these skills and make sure that we understand them well. So, here is a reflection spot. Let us say you have a chance to talk to hundreds of experienced software engineers. Okay, you are interviewing them. What do you think are the qualities and skills they will say are required for being a good software engineer? So, interestingly, there are researchers who have worked on exactly this question of what makes a great software engineer. How did they find the answers? By interviewing lots of good software engineers and asking them this question as to what qualities do they think are important. So, findings from this research has been published in a conference called International Conference on Software Engineering. So, this is another way to build your knowledge by looking at publications from the academic community also. So, what are the key ideas of what makes a good software engineer? The obvious one that which you all would have noted is to be a very competent or skilled coder, right. Then there are also the interactions with teammates, the decision making, the ability to take a decision on whether we should implement something one way or the other way and how that decision impacts the rest of the team and the rest of the software that is being built. And finally, there are the personality traits. So, let us look at each of these in detail.
Of course, the most important aspect of being a good software engineer is to be a competent coder, right? So even if everything else is great, so your app or your website or your software has good UI, documentation is good, the sales and marketing teams are good, but if the product is of poor quality and if it has many bugs, then the software won't sell, right? So we hope that through this course you are able to appreciate the basic ideas of writing clean and modular code and also using effective coding and design principles and guidelines. And the way one gets better is by practicing and continuing to write good and elegant code. Now, most people agree that although writing good code is a necessary attribute of a great software engineer, it is not sufficient. So another important characteristics of good software engineers is that they can make good decisions. So if you realize software engineers, they have to make several decisions as they go about developing their software, right? Both at the macro level, that is the design and the architecture level, like for example, which libraries or which frameworks to use, which architectural style, to micro decisions. For example, which algorithms to use or what data structures has to be used for a particular module. But then how do you make good decisions? Doesn't this also come along with practice and experience? Yes, in a way that's true, but great software engineers are said to follow a very rational decision-making process. So what is this rational decision-making process? So in this process, first, the software engineer, they identify the decision to be made. Then they systematically identify alternatives. They think through potential outcomes and evaluate which of the outcome is best for the given context, and then they make a decision. So the first step to make good decisions is to gather all the information needed to make that decision. And this is an important characteristic which defines good software engineers. So recollect, how did you make decisions regarding details of your software projects? So did you go with your intuition or past experiences? Well, it might work, but following this rational decision making process will help you make better decisions. And this also requires you to be open-minded. So based on the information you receive, you should be willing to let go of preconceived notions, right? And it also involves asking others in the team or outside for help, so that the information you have is adequate to make an informed decision.
When we come to effective communications, we saw in the previous videos what is the importance of communicating well with other members of the team. This is so that everyone has the same vision of the product that is being built and ensuring that the product satisfies the user's need. Now, from the interviews, researchers have found that this is a very important trait. Building the shared understanding with others is an important requirement to become a great software engineer. A software engineer might have to explain complex abstract concepts to members from a non-technical team like the sales team or a marketing team, or even to the end users. So this involves effectively communicating key ideas in a way which is relevant and comprehensible. So this is not just about speaking clearly, but also about adjusting the level of the communication so that the others can understand. So we not only have to pay attention to not using jargon when we are talking to non-technical users, but at the same time we also have to make sure that we communicate in a way that they get the right understanding. And finally, one very important trait of great software engineers is continuous learning. As we all know, the field keeps changing at a very rapid pace. So programming languages change, the development environments change, new ways of collaboration come up, new tools come up, and so on and so forth. So it is important to constantly learn and keep up with developments in the field. This is critical towards remaining current as a software engineer. So great software engineers are always curious. They are always trying to figure out how things work, asking others for understanding, and updating their own knowledge on a continuous basis. Now, what are ways in which you can constantly update yourself? So some of them you may know, for example specific websites or forums, reading specific blogs where you know that okay, these people are writing the blogs in order to educate others. Right? Another way of doing this is to attend conferences. So academic conferences are often the place where some new development or some novel tool is initially prototyped, or the proof of concepts are demonstrated. So for example, a conference like the International Conference on Software Engineering is a well recognized conference, and you can look at the research that is published there to get an idea of what is the new thing that might come up. Interestingly, this conference also has a track on software engineering education, how to learn, how to teach software engineering. So in this course, we will provide a list of blogs, websites and additional resources. So as you embark on your journey to become great software engineers, keep in mind that it is important to keep continuously learning. And that is a great way to wrap up this course. And that brings us to the end of the course. To summarize, we looked at software processes, what are different processes that are used in software development. We looked at tools. What tools do software teams use to build the software, how to capture requirements, how to do the planning, the development and testing. We looked at the code, how to organize your code, what are best practices for writing clean and effective code. We looked at teams, how to work effectively in a team. So, through the projects, hopefully you have got a flavor of how all this happens in a company. So, these topics have hopefully given you an idea of what software engineering is all about. An important thing to consider is that different organizations, different industries and teams have different ways of building software, which may be somewhat different from what you encountered in this course. That does not matter too much as long as your conceptual understanding of how to go about the process is clear. Pretty much everybody follows the same process, but there may be some changes in the details, like some teams may use X tool, some others may use Y tool, some may write specifications in one way, some others may write it in a different way, and so on and so forth. That is not very difficult for you to pick up once you are familiar with one such process. And finally, to repeat, it is important to continuously learn and stay updated, since this is a fast moving field. We wish you all the best to become great software engineers.